My name is Layla Arrison. I am a sports rugby broadcaster for SuperSport, mainly in rugby commentary as a rugby analyst, but I do presenting and some MC work here and there, but that's kind of my main job. When I started, I played cricket at school, so I was with the boys constantly. I come from a very small town, Hermanus, and a very small school, Kira Hermanus. We were the first matriculants, so I never had this big, sporting school with these huge inter-schools, etc. So women's sports was, it was something I did, but I wasn't, and I wanted to pursue it at a high level and at a high career. However, probably just where I came from, it was almost just not this idea that you had. You had to go find a job and you had to go study and do something to be able to find a job. Looking back at it now, and where we are now, women can actually really just decide that they want to go into sport and turn it into a career, and it's going to take you across the world. It's going to make you see places and see things. So yeah, it's almost incomprehensible how much it has grown. But in saying that, there's still so much space for it to grow, and I'm really excited to see where it's going to go. When I played cricket, there weren't a lot. I look back and there wasn't like a lot of cricket players. But if I look at just in general sports people, you look at someone like Serena Williams, what she was able to do and come out and really break into the scene. That was like one of the first names that you knew of, but I kind of had like family and friends that really inspired me. Gio Aplon, who was a rugby player, his wife, Stacey Aplon, she was the one I was training with at 7 years old, running up and down the streets because she was a sprinter, and so that's who I wanted to be. So in terms of rugby wasn't really a sport that I ever thought of. Rugby came to me. I didn't go to rugby because I was a cricket player. You kind of had to become your own sports hero in that space because there really was nobody else during that time. So yeah, my sporting heroes would have to be Serena Williams and how she influenced women's sport in general, but it was more about Stacey and what she meant to me at home. I was a part of the group that started the Marty's Women's Sevens rugby side, and so we didn't even train on the rugby fields. We weren't allowed to train on the rugby fields. We were training in sandy volleyball pits. I think looking back at it, it probably made us fitter because we were running on sand the whole time. But that's where a lot of it started. Only later on, when the club started realizing that this is potentially something that they can grow from, we were then given opportunity to train on the fields and all of those things. But it would have to be financial support and backing from the communities. But as I said, it's grown so much, but we still have so much more to do. Yeah, okay, so my sporting career would have to be being part of the Springbok Women's Sevens larger training group. Yeah, that was an incredible opportunity. I went to Dubai and we were with the women's invitational side and things. So in my career, that would have to be my proudest opportunity, or proudest moments. In work at the moment, it has to be a couple weeks ago, 21 July. I was a presenter for on the Springboks Portugal game. So that was incredible, being able to go to Bloemfontein, and then most recently probably being a part of the Olympics broadcast side. Yeah, that would probably be up there with those top two. So in terms of kind of my presenting career, so Cass Naidu would be right up there. My now friend, and I'm really lucky to be able to call her a friend and a colleague, Motsidisi Mahono, Katua Low even, I tell the story all the time because now we're friends and I can tell it, is I sent her an Instagram DM and I told her, it's so incredible what she's done, and she blue ticked me. And then only when we became colleagues and she tagged me on an Instagram story, she actually realized that there was a message that I sent her. But yeah, as athletes, Serena Williams, you look at some of, Megan Rapinoe for the women's, US women's national side. Yeah, there are a lot of big names. But what I'm really glad and really proud for now is that the girls coming up now have more names to look to, because I think way back, I say way back when because I'm so old, but back then, there weren't too many, but I'm really glad we're in a space where there's more now. I think people are starting to see that it's actually enjoyable to watch. I think it was always just male sports, and we were excited about the Olympics. We'd watch the men run, or we'd constantly weekends be watching men's sport and male sport. Now though, I think people are becoming excited about the product of what women's sport is. It's an entertaining product. You're invested, you want to see the stories, you buy into the stories of the players behind the scenes. So in that aspect, the perception has changed so much, because it kind of just used to be this on the side thing. Oh, the women did it too, and now it's like, oh, but we have to go because the women are playing. You look at the Women's Cricket World Cup that happened in the country 2 years ago. You know, towards the end of the final, how those stands were packed, how South Africa really bought into our cricket women. That's something I never thought we'd see, and it's something that I hope that we see for women's rugby too. And our Springbok women are currently working really hard. They're prepping for the Women's Rugby World Cup next year. So in order to change the perception about the women's rugby, I think we still have a little bit more work to do, just because culturally in South Africa what rugby is perceived as. But I think with enough hard work and enough people buying into it, come August next year, I think we'll have a couple more supporters. Be proud of the hard work that you have achieved, and own your space. Walk into the space and make that space your own. If you've earned your right to be there and you know what you're talking about, you know, walk in there with your chest held high and your head held high. Don't become too boastful. I always say keep your head down and work. That's kind of my motto, is just to keep my head down and work. I go in, give it the best you can, and leave. But yeah, take up space, own your space, because you deserve to be there. It's great to go out to train after school, but why am I training? You want to say, oh, I'm training because Layla did this. Oh, I'm training because Libby Jansen van Rensburg did this. It becomes a thing of like having to convince your parents that sport is something you want to buy into. But if you've got these role models to look up to, you can almost go, here's the product, here's what can be achieved. We broke down the barriers so that they can break through ceilings, for instance. And it needs to be a case of, I'm not only going to push my son to be a Springbok, I'm going to push my daughter to do it too, because of all the millions of opportunities that can be created. It takes you international, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. We're still so very small-minded with regards to what can be achieved in a women's sporting space. I say women's sport is the fastest growing sport in the world currently in all aspects. And if you don't buy into it now, you're going to get left behind. And we need to start or keep carrying the baton, and being able to break open these spaces so that little girls can look up to and decide, that's exactly what I want to be, that's exactly what I want to do. And I'm not just doing this for the love of the game, for the love of sport, but I actually want to make a career out of it. As a kid, I was incredibly conscious of what people thought of me. I always wanted to be the best. I didn't want to step a foot wrong. But as I got older and wiser, I kind of just realized I'm going to live my truth and I'm going to live my life. And so that's my advice, is you have to be so confident in who you are that you're not afraid to go out and portray it to the world. We live in a world at the moment where social media runs every single part of what we do, and people are constantly looking at you and judging you, but you've really just got to own your truth, live your truth, and be authentically you, be genuinely you, because that's who people are going to love at the end of the day. You can't put on a facade, you can't pretend to be X, Y, and Z, or pretend to be whoever, or not be who you are. So that's my advice, is be authentically you, and people are going to love you or hate you for it, but the people who love you more matters more than those who hate you. At the moment, the biggest thing is financial support. It is support from bigger companies who buy into this idea and buy into the love of sport. My hope is really that people start to see that this is something that's entertaining, that it is there are women who are working hard every single day without earning a cent to put up an entertaining product. And that they get behind them and they give them support. I had a conversation with someone that said, you know, he wants to buy into women's sport not for his monetary return on investment, but for what he sees it does for the players and for the generations to come. And so if more people can buy into that idea of, I don't want to just make money back from whatever I'm investing, but to just rather see the product of what I'm investing in, Yeah, that would make me the happiest. The Springbok women, I think, potentially have their best opportunity to make a quarterfinals in the Women's Rugby World Cup next year. They've never done it, and they need that kind of support. They need the support of the people to buy into it and buy into that idea and walk this journey with them. I stopped playing because I wanted to be a voice outside the four lines. Being in my career at the moment, it literally gives me a voice, but that is exactly what it needs. That's what women's rugby sporting communities need, is a voice outside of that, fighting for equality, fighting for justice within the sporting realms. So the more voices that can be heard, the more people can't ignore it anymore. As long as people are talking about women's rugby, whether it be good or bad, at least they're talking about it. And so we need to be more voices to make people talk about it more. I mean, there just is more representation in general. I was driving here and I was listening to Jacaranda FM, and they were promoting the Bulls Daisies final, where the men are going to be playing the curtain raiser for the women's final. It's never something you see. It's not something you've necessarily heard on radio before. So just being able to have a mention or two in a broadcast is already more than what we've ever had. It would be incredible if there was more. You drive past billboards, you see all of the sporting stars on billboards, but you don't necessarily see a women's star on the billboards. Have more of those. But yeah, it's all about having this voice and having a voice drive to a certain goal, and getting all of the media partners, everyone that has the opportunity to be a voice, to get into more people's ears, but to be a constant. It can't just be here and there. It's got to be a constant noise, a constant sound that you hear. If you look from the 2023 Rugby World Cup, I mean, the hype started building in 2022 already. In exactly a year from now, the Women's Rugby World Cup starts. I would want there to be more noise, more voices, more posts, more build-ups to that, so that people then become aware. So come August, people know that's who we're supporting, that is what we're doing, and that is what we're looking forward to. We just want opportunity. We want to be able to have a say. We want to sit at the same tables as men, and we want to be heard. We don't just want to sit there, we actually want to have a voice and we want to be heard. Have women make the decisions. We've never made the decisions, so we need to have more women making decisions and making decisions for women. It's made me a holistic person. You really do learn the ups and the downs, the rejections of life. You're going to make a squad, you're not going to make a squad, you're going to be part of the playing 15 that weekend or you're not. So it really does build your resilience. It builds you as a whole person. You start learning parts about yourself that you never knew you had, or you start unlocking parts of yourself. You see how strong you actually are. And so I think if I wasn't a sports person and got into the sporting space that I'm in at the moment, it would have been a lot harder. But because I come from a team environment, I understand wins, losses, heartbreak, joy, rejection, all of those things. It now has kind of made me resilient to what the outside world can offer me, because I feel like I've been there, I've been dropped from a team, and it was like the most heartbreaking moment. So nothing else can really affect me in any other way. It's about representation. It's about being seen in spaces that you necessarily won't be seen, and it's about being brave enough to be able to do that. You look at Western society versus kind of your rural communities. In the rural side of things, they need someone to be able to see that I can get out of my situation, and I can go out into the world and I can achieve incredible things. But we need more role models. We've seen what Siya Kolisi has done coming out of his community. Someone like Babalwa Lacha is an incredible human being. She came from circumstances that people would never ever have thought of, that they can rise from. So it's more people in those areas, more women in those areas, that even in rural communities, players can and children can see that as their out. I want to get out of the situation. I want to get out of what I've been put in. So here's someone I can look to and see what she's achieved. I want to do that. And I think same in the Western. I think women on that side of things, children can also see, like, I don't have to only play netball. I don't have to only become a doctor, pharmacist, etc. Like, there are other opportunities for me as well. Hermanus is an incredibly small community. I only went to Cape Town on weekends, and it was like the biggest trip for my family. We'd go to Cape Town, we'd make a weekend of it, you know. But even that is small. I've now been able to travel the world because of what I'm doing, and you can really see what that opportunity and what the world is like, and how people interact with each other, and how culturally, you know, it adds to the puzzle of who you are as a person. Women are strong enough, we are brave enough, we are bold enough, and we know enough to be able to be in those spaces. Yeah, that's my legacy, is that people look to me, they see that I came from an incredibly small town. I moved here on my own, and I really just backed myself, went through trials and tribulations for the first 2 years that I'd moved to Gauteng, backed myself and believed in my abilities and what I can achieve. And I'm taking up space and making sure that people notice me in that space to be able to be a face and a voice for generations to come. Michelle was my general manager and sports manager at school. I think at school she believed in me more than I think I believed in my own skills and abilities, and she never allowed the fact that I was a woman to stop me from playing with the boys, or stop me from taking up spaces that I wasn't actually supposed to take up. She really drove me and was a driving force behind everything. She supported me in everything I needed to do. Michelle was definitely one of those. As I got older and I moved into my studies, he sadly passed away 2 weeks ago, but Professor Wilbur Clark, he was a coach, but he was a professor at Stellenbosch University as well, and he taught me. You know, he was also someone that saw more in me than I did in myself, and he really drove me to be excellent, and to never be okay with mediocrity, and to keep going and striving for more, and always to be hungry for more, because there is more than what you think that yeah, you can achieve.